You and I are constantly bombarded by misinformation from politicians, celebrities, and media personalities who demonize guns and gun owners. Their accounts are contrary to my experience as a responsible gun owner, a retired police officer, and a professional competitive shooter. I have listened to their lies and I've taken their punches, but I refuse to stay silent any longer because I know a lot of women who have something to say and they won in the game. They're ready to play offense with the truth.
The truth is, we all want the same thing: to protect ourselves, our families, and to be safe in our communities. The DC Project is a nationwide grassroots organization made up of women from every demographic. We come from all different walks of life, but we are united in preserving our Second Amendment rights. As we share our experiences, we push back against gun control lies and oppose those who demand our rights be restricted.
As an immigrant from Venezuela, I saw how easy it was for freedom to die. My family and I watched tyranny destroy our home. In Venezuela, the media, celebrities, and politicians repeated the same anti-gun messages until people found it normal and acceptable to give up their freedoms. The reality is, none of it is normal or acceptable. Hungry and helpless, Venezuelans are now unable to protect themselves. Now, as a proud American, I am determined to guard against the same things happening here.
We constantly hear about common sense gun control, like universal background checks, banning assault weapons, ghost guns, high-capacity magazines, and gun show loopholes. Every city that is facing massive crime waves have put these policies into place. Common sense tells me that they don't work. So why do people still believe the idea that those policies save lives? Actual common sense is holding criminals accountable, not letting them out of jail or encouraging them to be more confrontational. Common sense is not stealing the right of the American people to protect themselves. This is the message that America needs to hear.
The DC Project works to reduce firearm accidents by campaigning for education in schools. We counter the false gun control lies by testifying in hearings and meeting our legislators. We equip our friends, our families, and our communities to know the truth. Gun owners are good people.
America is a beacon of freedom. The Second Amendment is a vital piece in ensuring that our kids can have a free country to grow up in. We stand with the lawmakers who support the Constitution, and we provide armor from the attacks by the gun control lobby.
Join the DC Project today. Become a member, donate, or subscribe to our newsletter for updates on how we educate, advocate, and preserve our Second Amendment rights for generations to come.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
And so we're headed
out, and there's so much stuff going on. Absolutely so much stuff going on.
You know what's funny is every news article is 24 pages long in micro print for some reason. There's no like one page, one line.
Alan Gottlieb writes little one-pagers, but everybody else has been very, very verbose.
A booklet about the whole thing instead
so
of
everybody's press release or news article, it's just bigger and more detailed. But I wanted to kind of start the show with talking about training. Taking your firearm, going to the range, practicing, handling it, getting it in your holster, out of your holster, that kind of stuff. But additionally, there is a fairly large group of my friends who are all in Georgia right now, taking a series of medical training, like 3 days of medical training on stop the bleed and general first aid and all varieties of things for trauma victims. And
well, some people just want to shoot the gun. They don't want to get shot by the gun, so they don't think about that and prepping it ahead of time.
I think you need
it's like driving a car. We want to learn driver's training. We don't want to learn crash and effect training.
But you want to learn to wear your seatbelt to mitigate crash effect training. You want to learn the laws to mitigate.
See, they always taught me to look for something soft to ram into. That's what they're doing.
But no, I think that if you carry a gun, that you should seriously think about the other parts of it.
What you should think about and what you do think about are two different things.
Okay, well, we have an opportunity.
But if everybody worried about the end result, then all of a sudden a lot of people would just hide under the bed for the.
Well, I'm not saying to worry about the end result, but I am saying to prepare for it.
Yep.
So it's kind of like when I learned how to ride a motorcycle, then every 2 years I would go and take an additional training class on riding slow and navigating parking lots and quick braking and fast turns and that type stuff. Not the stuff that is harder, the slow speed maneuverability, because that's where you fall down and that's where you get all scratched up and that's where you get hurt. So I think the same thing applies for your firearm, that you should be practicing it with it. You should be going for continuing education.
Well, and there's also a spot where what do they say, perfect practice and stuff. If you go get some training, they'll show you what you should be doing, and then you could practice on your own at that point.
Correct.
If you get training from the neighbor and it's wrong training and you practice on your own, now you've trained yourself things.
You've locked in really, really bad things.
Right. So I mean, it's worth spending the time on the training and learning the right way of doing things, and then go from there. And there's a lot of beginner classes and next step after beginner classes.
Well, and I just think that it's good to keep expanding your horizons. Think about things you've never thought about before. So I think that that's good. I think that it is good, and I won't name the person, but I talked to a guy one time about me going somewhere for training, and he's like, my trainer does this. And I said, your trainer? And he's like, yes, all of my training, I go to blah, blah, blah training. And I'm like, so you've never gone to anybody else? Nope, he knows everything I need to know. And
see, wouldn't it be nice to live inside of that guy's head where just
nothing would not
is happening around you?
It would not be good to live inside that guy's head, because he lives in denial.
Well, it's funny. You go somewhere and this guy teaches you something, and then you go somewhere else and that guy teaches you something else, and then while you're in a class with 20 other people, some lady who's 74 years old shows you the real way that things should be done, and it's so much easier and simpler than either of the two guys.
Either of the other two. Exactly. So you learn, as an instructor, you learn from the students. As a student, you learn from the instructor. As a student, you learn from the other students. Right. And sometimes you learn what to do and what not to do.
I know I've picked up stuff in class from people and immediately started putting it back out because it was such good, easy, understandable lessons. And the other way of doing it was so hard, and
It was
Most
like,
people
oh,
did not understand what you were even talking
it
about.
just
or
turns into
something.
an aha moment. So I just think that, I think that there's a wide variety of trainings that one should go to. And if you're doing something that requires a skill set,
The thing too
have
is,
a skill set.
if you have a couple friends that are like-minded, get them all to go, and it makes for a nice week of training or something where you're all out together doing.
My girlfriends and I are going down to Louisiana to take a class with Chris Sereno.
And mosquito bite slapping, right?
And then we're going to end up in New Orleans, where I'm sure that there's going to be a little alcohol consumption and a whole lot of people watching. So with maybe some jambalaya along the way, but that's so it really is. It's an opportunity to train. It's an opportunity to have a good time, bond, do something, learn something. So I hadn't had the opportunity to go take this class down in Georgia, and I have taken several medical classes, and this one really got into the nitty gritty detail. And I'm like, there's a reason why I became an engineer and not a nurse or a doctor. And so that was kind of part of my thing.
It was kind of funny. We went to training years ago, back in the 80s, and I had a 9mm at that time that had a decocker on it. And at that time there was all kinds of guns available. You could get like the Glock system, or you could get the 1911 with the safety, or you could get some that were with the safety and with the decocker and all this stuff. So it was very confusing what gun you had or how it worked. But when you're in the class, they would make you shoot, and then if you had to, you had the decock or safety or whatever, then holster and everything. And I realized that was such a pain in the rear, and I immediately switched to a gun that didn't have a safety on
it didn't have any and my holster is my safety. And so I took a class too where I had two guns that looked almost exactly alike. Well, one of them was yours and one of them was mine. They looked almost exactly alike, except mine had a safety and yours did not.
Like I say, I've gone there. I don't.
So
if it's got a safety, I don't even buy it.
So I took I took yours as the backup, and they immediately started the class with saying, if your gun has a safety, you need to use it. And I was like, 1 minute, I need to change gears. So I went back to the safe table, and I flipped to your gun with no safety, and then took the entire class there, knowing that my backup gun was there should I need it as a backup gun. But I concur that for concealed carry and for that training, that your holster is the safety, and that is why it is so critical that you have a good quality holster that retains the gun and covers the trigger.
And some guns today are coming with a holster right from the factory. Right now I have an FN that I'm using. It came with the factory FN holster. You could be right or left-handed. It works pretty well.
Mine didn't.
And otherwise, I was using a leather holster for years, and I realized that by going to a Kydex holster, it knocked about a second off of my jaw.
Isn't that crazy?
And so I've switched then to a Kydex holster, and I like it with with that locking clip on the belt.
Okay, Utililock, Utiliclip?
Utiliclip or whatever. So I just buy that particular holster, and they work really well for me. And so when I buy a new gun, I just order a holster. And
well, all I can think of is that you run into people out in society, and you look at their gear, and you're like, are you open to feedback? Because I don't want to be that person that has an opinion about all your stuff, but there's a spot where I'm going to have an opinion about your stuff.
There's a lot of people who right away the first holster that they buy is the $9 flannel one or something.
Well, there's that, but
it's all about what's cheap and.
Well, I remember seeing a gal who was carrying in an outside the waistband holster, and her holster did not fit her gun. And so her gun fit in it, sort of. And 90% of the trigger and the trigger guard was outside of the holster. And it was like, you wait to see, you want to say, are you open to feedback? And finally it was like, no, I'm going all in. That is unsafe. Something bad is going to happen to you. Can I help you pick a new holster? That's the answer of where I am. We'll be back right after this.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we are back, and the ATF is going to have an absolute banner year this year, and I'm not saying that as a positive thing, a good thing.
They got that new guy, Deedlebach or Deedleback or however they say it, and he's like Joe Biden's whipping boy or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
what do you want me to do, boss? Huh? What are we gonna do next, boss? What are we gonna do, boss?
So the other thing is they've been doing a lot of stuff. I mean, they changed the rules. They've been they're setting records on how many FFLs they're getting rid of. They're running guns to Mexico again. They're blocking exports of guns and ammunition from the manufacturers. Everything they can do to try to inconvenience the industry and to make it look like that they are irresponsible, even though it's the government that's the irresponsible one.
Right. Well, the interesting part is that the ATF is listing how many revocations and how many voluntary surrenders they had each.
Well, the thing is, they don't really say. They don't break it down, so they don't say how many of them they took away and how many just people gave up.
Well, and then part of it is that they gave up because when you looked at them later on, they had a black eye and they were missing 5 of their 10 fingernails. But we're not saying that the government did anything to them. We're just alluding to the condition that they were in when they got out of the interview.
We got rid of our FFL because it was just more and more headache than it was worth, and so it was. I guess we're a voluntary that we gave it away, but but nobody really did anything.
We voluntarily gave away 2 of them.
Right, but it isn't like it isn't like we were strong-armed into it. We
just
we've outgrown them and decided to move on into something different.
One of them we closed the shop, and so that FFL just kind of went, and then the other one we just weren't doing what the manufacturer's license asked. There's certain things you need to do, and we were like, yeah, we're just not using it enough to justify doing this. So the interesting thing is the ATF starting to use fear, threats, and intimidation to coerce dealers into voluntarily surrendering licenses. So sometimes when they pull them in for an interview, they're like, yeah, I'm not guilty of anything. They can't find anything, but I'm going to give up my license.
I think there's some documentation here of a guy in Indiana that or in Oklahoma that the ATF had.
Right. This is the one with the state rep. Last week I sent a thank you note to the state rep because the state rep was in Oklahoma is supporting and standing for this guy.
He's calling for Oklahoma grand jury to investigate the ATF in this, but they said that he was handcuffed in front of his 13-year-old son, and they hinted at the possibility of federal crimes and all this stuff, and coerced the dealer into surrendering
their license.
And they said that the thing that was funny was that when he finally had enough and said he would surrender the license, one of the agents pulled the required paperwork in triplicate from
his clipboard. We just so happened to have
that. So they already had it taped up and ready to go.
Right.
And then they said, to date, this Fincher's never been charged with any crimes or anything.
Nothing, but they pulled him into that. So I think that's the interesting part, is watching to see what's happening.
One of the other funny parts in this was saying that the ATF has to go through a lot of stuff to get you to throw away or to take your license from you, and then they say that occasionally they lose, so they've decided by strong-arming you into giving it up, it's a lot easier for them than it is to try to find out
that you could go into court with it. So yeah, there's a bunch of these. The interesting piece of this article. So this is an article by Lee Williams, and Lee Williams is part of the Second Amendment Foundation's investigative journalism. And he's a data guy. So he gathers data, puts things together, and so it's always a real interesting story. But the nugget that I got out of this was that there are almost 53,000 federally licensed gun dealers in the United States. 53,000.
That's not just regular gun shops. That's big stores. Any place that sells a gun. So if you're going to a hardware store and they sell a gun, they got FFL.
They got an FFL. Right. Yeah. Manufacturers have FFLs. So those are in there. So SIG and
sometimes there's guys who just they do engraving or they do coatings or whatever. They all have to have the license
because they bring them in, take them back out. The interesting part to me was that there's also 52,800 curio and relic licenses. And so let's talk about what a CNR is. What is it about?
If you're a collector and you collect guns, primarily that are over 50 years old, but also if it has some kind of historical significance, you can petition the government to have it put on the CNR thing. So if you know that there's a company and they only made 10 of something, you can have that put on the list because it's rare and valuable beyond its normal channel.
Right.
So these guys, they can collect using this license, and they can buy on the internet or from each other,
and so they can have it
sent
shipped
right
to
to their
them.
house instead of having to go through a licensed dealer. And,
So in effect, their background check was done when they were issued this license. So it is in effect a big license background check,
right?
To put you in
so
that.
They can't just buy and sell and go set up a shop somewhere, but they can buy for their collection,
Buy and gather,
they
yes.
can sell some of the pieces that they're not using, so they can trade amongst themselves or whatever. It just makes it easier for them to do it without having to go. I mean, you buy the gun and you have to pay whatever it is, $50 or $75 for transfer fees.
For the transfer
everywhere.
fee. So it all of a sudden it starts to. That's where the benefit really is to the CNR guys, is the transfer fees, moving them in and out, and the ability then to allow them to go and call FedEx or something and have a gun shipped,
right?
And not have to go to your gun dealer, because if you're shipping and having them ship it, you're paying for that too, because you have to pay for somebody to do all the paperwork, to put it in their book, to trace it through, and and get it in and get it out.
For me, it's not free either.
It's not. It's time consuming. I mean, because the FFL, get in big trouble if the paperwork is not done correctly. So it is careful paperwork, time consuming, thought process paperwork to do that. But we're going to be watching and tracking the ATF, because there is so much stuff going on. And once again, the ATF is not your friend. So we'll be back right after this.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Okay, we are back. Do you know that there is a poll out that says that the U.S. population is not in favor of more gun control laws? They're saying that if we have the laws, why don't we enforce the laws that we have?
Well, they've been saying that for years about every kind of law. Because
inherently, the law-abiding use the laws as a guidance, and they just based on their name, they abide by the law.
And the rest of them drive like you do, right?
Shut up. Speed limits are a suggestion? Is that what you're inferring?
That and a few other things.
Shut up. So, just I'm a perfectly safe driver.
Why, certainly.
Why, certainly. I did not roll my truck end for end with little Rocco in it.
I didn't roll it end for end. We just stood on an end and flopped it over on its roof.
Okay.
We wanted to check out the bottom end of it.
There you go. Yeah. I just want you guys to know, this was last year, but Rob calls me. We were working on something, and then he leaves. And not 5 minutes later, he calls me, and he's got his brand new little dog with him, and he calls me, and he's like, Rocco wrecked the truck. And I'm like, okay, is Rocco okay? And how is his little paws from steering, right? I mean, there you go. But now, just to put it out there, I didn't wreck the truck. Rocco wrecked the truck. That's kind of what he was inferring. It was pretty.
I was sleeping at the time.
It was pretty funny.
Rocco was driving.
Okay. Rocco has since been grounded, and he doesn't go traveling too much.
No more.
He doesn't. Well, we'll just say he's not real receptive to getting in the truck any longer. There's probably a reason. We'll say. Though I have to do before we go off, since we've talked the Rocco story, I want you to know that when Rob called, I go to the scene of the emergency, and his truck is upside down and it's kind of flat, and he's got his little dog, and it was in a ditch, and he was soaking wet, and his little dog was soaking wet, and then the rescue squad comes, and they take Rob, and they pull him off to the side, and they start checking him out, and then one of the other squad guys comes to me, and he's like, was there anybody else in the truck? And I said, well, just him and his little dog. And he said, a little dog, is he okay? And so the rescue squad guy went over Rocco just to make sure that Rocco was fine. And that, to me, is just, it was just the sweetest, nicest, caring, and considerate thing. Is first we make sure all the people are okay, and then we make sure that all the little the little furry guys were fine too. But it was like, aw. Okay. So, according to Rasmussen, you and your little dog too.
Now back to the show.
Back to the show. I just wanted to say that.
You get sidetracked easy.
Squirrel. So, just me? Only me? Am I the only one who gets sidetracked easy? Some people say that it is entertaining to try to figure out where our brains are going next. Not that it's not being sidetracked, but it's just, if you went from point A to point B in a straight line, it would just be boring.
There's no telling where it's like high action pinball when you're trying to figure out where we're headed.
Where we're headed with the show. Okay. Well, Rasmussen, who does their polls, they say that 57% of voters say stricter enforcement of existing gun control laws would be more effective than passing new laws, while 30% believe that passing new laws would do better, would be in our benefit.
What was funny is when they broke it down in the Democrats, Republicans, and the Independents.
Right.
It's like it was kind of eye-opening to see the.
Well, it's really funny because the 71% of the Republicans say enforce the laws you've got. 43% of the Democrats say enforce the laws you've got. 43% of the Democrats don't say enforce those laws. They say just make new ones. So those are old laws. We just need new laws.
New shiny ones.
New shiny ones. I don't understand it. That's the part that it's like.
Well, the thing is, if you look at it and you applied somewhat of common sense to it, you would say the old laws must not be working, so we need new laws. But if they didn't bother to do anything to force the old laws on you, then for sure it didn't work.
The new ones aren't going to work either, right? I mean, because think about it. If you are a teenager and you try your parents a little bit and they go, oh, okay, that's fine. No big deal. Then the next thing your parents say, you'll be like, yeah, well, phooey on you too.
Whatever.
Right, whatever, Mom. Exactly. So, 44% of Democrats think it's possible to completely prevent mass shootings, and 21% of Republicans also think so. So now let's take that. I bet you, not that the poll says this, but I bet you if you went to the Democrats and you said, let's just say, whether you say Democrats or liberals, if you go to the liberal-minded and you say, how do you completely prevent mass shootings? They would be like, ban guns. All guns need to go. You can't have a mass shooting if there's not a gun in the United States.
Right. Well, and if you want to play on words, then yeah, you wouldn't have a
mass shooting
because there's no guns, but there would be other ways that they would do something.
Right. It doesn't say mass killing, it says mass shootings.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, if you ask the 21% of the Republicans, they'd be like, give everybody a gun, then it won't ever meet the definition of a mass killing, because only one person is going to be killed, maybe two, because it'll be the first person that the killer kills, and then the killer back.
Killer back.
Right?
But, and that's the thing is, if you look at other countries where guns are not common, Japan, France, and stuff like that, they just choose to use like a 5-ton truck and run through the crowd or something. They don't usually shoot the place up. They just they find something else. They nail the door shut and burn the whole building down with everybody in it or something. There's when you got a defective mind, it works in different ways depending on what the laws allow.
It's depending on what you can get access to. So it's just interesting that say, let's talk about criminal reform, not gun reform, because it's not the guns that are doing it. How many gun laws do we really have in the United States? That is a perfect question. How many gun laws do we have, and how come they're not working?
Well, the thing is too is there's gun laws that are federal, so all states have them, and then each state has different ones, and some states allow each city to have different ones.
Well, you look at California, and it has some of the most stringent gun laws, and then yet they still have a huge amount of issues. we've got some stories about, where is it? Oh, here it is. So, Chicago. Chicago has some of the most stringent gun laws, right? And then you top that with federal gun laws. And so federal gun laws say that if you are under 18 years old, you don't get access to a firearm unless you're somewhere with an adult who has that access to the firearm. If you are under 21 years old, you do not have access to a handgun, right? So just recently, this week, Kim Edwards, Bearing Arms, did an article about Charles Hobson Sr. out of Chicago that was carjacked and murdered by a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they shot him to steal his car. So think about this. 15 years old, 16 years old, their goal was to get his car, and so they shot him in the leg, and that leg wound was enough that he bled out. So they shot him in a major artery. So back to the medical classes, if anybody had been there that had a tourniquet, they possibly could have saved this man's life. But other than that, if somebody had been there that had been a reasonable adult, instead of a 15 and 16-year-old who had the idea that they were going to take this guy's new Lincoln Nautilus SUV, then there's that. But do you not see something wrong with this whole story? And the wrong is, how did they get guns? Right? If guns are the problem, how did they get guns? They're 15 and 16 years old. They're in Chicago. Chicago has some of the most stringent gun laws in the country, yet they had guns. And then at the same...
when you listen to Dick Durbin, he says that all the interlopers from around there sell the guns to them cheap. That's what it is.
Well, he was saying that Illinois was the problem, or Indiana was the problem of Illinois, and it was like, really? I don't understand how if that's the case, then how come Indiana doesn't have Indiana problems, right?
You
right?
think that they would have the same problems.
You start there, and then it expands over. Now, on another story that is on a similar bent, is that the same week, a 13-year-old girl was in custody for a carjacking.
That so she stole a car too, and let me see what the article says here.
Correct. She and a 19-year-old were together, and they jumped out of a Hyundai and ran to another car and carjacked it, a Kia Stinger, and took it. And then, by the way, they got stopped.
Pancake House. Oh, the victim was on her way to work at Ricky's Pancake
House. Well, there you go. But no, when you really start to look at this, is it a gun problem? Is it a law problem? Is it a juvenile problem? Is it a respect for society problem? Is it a crime problem?
Right. Well, the cars are got to go somewhere, so maybe they need to.
I think it's a car problem.
Yep,
I think it's a crime problem. So there you go. We'll be back right after these messages.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Okay, and so
our last article we were talking about this could be that they have other problems besides gun problems.
Right.
And you think about it, most of the stuff we talk about comes down to like two columns. You got either a mental health issue or a crime problem. So you got to either deal with the criminal or the mentally ill. And years ago, we got rid of the places to take the mentally ill to.
So the mental health institutions where you would institutionalize someone who was a threat to themselves or society, those all got closed, shut down.
I just seen the other day that Donald Trump said if he gets to be president again, he's going to possibly reinstate some of these mental health institutions. And right away the left went crazy over the fact that he's going to hold these people against their will for no reason.
For no reason. Well, I had a girl who did my hair for years, and those of you who sit in a chair for an hour to look like you didn't sit in a chair for an hour, right? That whole goal of I'm just going to sit here so that I look very natural and I don't look like I sat here, but right. So in that, there's always these conversations, and this gal was very chatty, extremely chatty. And one of the statements that she made and continued to make was the fact that her mother was, her words, nuts. And she says that her mother was a threat to herself, to her family, to the kids, to the sisters, to her dad. And that when they closed, that when her mother went into the institution, that it was a blessing because they would go and they could see her and they would maintain her meds and it was a joy. But when they let her come home, she would pour boiling water on them. She would threaten them. She would attack them in their sleep. There was all of these things. And her dad didn't have anybody who could help. So her dad had to go to work, try to deal with the wife, deal with the kids, do all of this stuff, and she talked a lot about how the government and the country and the mental health institutions, how horrible it was for her and her family as she was growing up. And that stuck with me a lot because I can't even imagine.
Most people don't know what to say about it, and it's like if it hasn't touched you, then you really don't have any idea. It's like crime. You can read about it and that, but if you haven't had your car stolen or somebody beat you with a club or something, it's not the same
as watching a movie about it. Right. Yeah.
And so so there is a spot where these people need help, but how
do you give them the help, or how do you get them the help, or how do you I don't know. And once again, my answer to this is why I went to engineering school and not to medical school, because I don't have these answers.
If somebody can take control of you, there just need to be safeguards so that they can't take control of you for no reason. Is all.
Right.
So you have to figure out a way that they go through some type of meeting,
so that they don't Henry VIII you, and now you're living in one of the.
Right.
Yeah.
They just decided that
because I got a new model that's on the up and coming track, and so I don't want the old model anymore. Right.
Yep. So they just get rid of you for some reason. But yeah, there's a lot to this. But it's when we see this stuff, if there's a criminal and he's doing something, and you take him into the courts and then you let him right back out and he does it again, you should start learning your lesson about the fact that he's not going to stop.
What was the one just recently that we were talking about that had been arrested 60 times previous to the incident that made the national news?
Right. But some of these, even if you see them there 15, 18, 20 times, and then it's like that's way too many times. If this guy's done this over and over again, he's not going to stop doing it.
No.
So you don't need a new law about a gun. You need to keep this guy either in prison somewhere.
So you need to keep him away from society, whatever that means, and however you elect to do that. But he should not be mainstreamed and back out in society to prey upon the law abiding.
But we allow that to happen over and over again, and it's I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it's the pendulum swings from one to the other and back again. I mean, so we're starting on where we're going to be mean to criminals again, but it's going to take us another 40 years before they finally get the real message.
It's gonna get there. I get it. I absolutely get it. But when we're looking at stuff, we've got to figure out which place, what are we looking at, where, in what direction do we want to go?
I mean, you can see some of that where, like, a therapist goes to school. They want to help somebody. They don't want to be the guy that puts the finger on.
I'm not putting the thumb on him and holding him down.
Nothing we can do with this guy, so we're done with it. But there's a spot where you have to say that, and nobody wants to be that guy, apparently.
Well, it's really interesting when you really start to look at this main tragedy. The news has now come out. There's enough story that we have an idea of what all was happening there, or pieces of what all was happening there. But his family reported him, and so there. Wait, where I got to figure out where that was, but and there's like 14 different stories about it. But his family. Here it is. This third story. Okay, so there is all these calls now that we want waiting periods for guns. Well, guess what? He bought the guns substantially before any waiting period would have expired. I mean, he'd have burnt through that time. They want background checks, which he passed. They want red flag laws. His family contacted the authorities and said he's a threat to himself and others, i.e. red flag. They reported him. He was reported into the system. There was an all points bulletin out for him. They went to his house. There was nobody home. So that was que sera,
So,
right?
but some of it is it the police need to go take the gun from him, or does the family need to go take the gun?
Well,
from him?
there's family, there's the police, the hospital can find him, let him out. So this guy was, red flag, red flag, red flag, warning flag. The winds are, it's murky seas and riptides and
everything about it. When they had him in the hospital, that's when they could have went and taken his stuff.
Could have, because he was involuntarily committed. So individuals who are involuntarily committed are already prohibited under federal law from possessing firearms and ammunition. So the family had reported him to the police prior to the hospital confinement. So he had been red flag, yellow flag, Baker Act, whatever state words you have. They had done that
with some of
prior
that,
to
though,
this.
is you may have the sister-in-law calls the police and says the guy's crazy,
right?
But the brother-in-law on the other side of the family says, "Oh, he's not such a bad guy." So if they did take his gun, he would have let him have his gun or something. Anyway.
I don't know, but when they put him in the hospital, there is a federal
society
law.
of weirdos that we tend not to side with whatever the government says. So if they say he's a threat to himself, we would choose the other side.
But
even
we're
if we
back
knew for
to
a fact that
there's big calls for more laws, and
Right.
let's go back to the story that says we got enough laws. There was
do
every
something, they
right?
could have done something inside of those laws to do something,
Hold on.
but they didn't.
Yeah, this is the ship is getting rocky on the seas. You need your life jacket on. You need to take action because things are not going your way. Somebody needs to do something here, right? It is not looking good, kids. Hang on. I think I see an iceberg, right? I mean, this is what.
Right. I mean, I see it, but I mean, it is that where we fight amongst ourselves just as to what's good, what's bad, or who's
Don't pass a new law. We'll be back.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Radio Bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, so I just want you all to know that you heard it here, that the AR-15 is it's in play. And the bans on it in certain states that hate the evil black rifle, whether it is black or whether it has got a wood furniture or whether it has, whether it's multicolored, whether it's any of those things, it's still the evil black rifle. And that evil black rifle and the banning of it by states, the thing that I realized is that states that touch water hate guns, right? So when you really start to look, not all, but mostly, the East and West Coast are the ones that have the biggest heartburn.
It's the salt air that's messing with their brains, I think.
A little bit of Lake Superior maybe too, because of Chicago. But yeah, if they touch water, they don't like. They're just not a fan.
Chicago just thinks it's got an ocean. That's all.
That's it. It's big. When you look out, it looks like it's an ocean. It's just not an ocean. But it. So recently, the California's assault weapons ban was deemed unconstitutional by Judge Benitez, and so then it went to the ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, and a 3-judge panel heard it and issued a stay he says the ban has to go away. It's 30 years old and it has to go away. The 3-judge panel at the 9th Circuit said, we're gonna issue a stay. We're gonna leave it right where it's at while it goes through the courts.
Cited the
Bruin
case, and so that's what he's basing on. They're saying that now they want to hold it over till they get the whole 9th Circuit Court can hear it.
Right.
And then they'll make a decision. So they may still uphold that Bruin says that, but it's going to take them a while.
Oh, take them a while. And they said, you've had it for 30 years. You're going to continue to have it.
But even if not, now there's other courts that have come in. So Illinois recently.
So Illinois just recently said in their courts that, it is constitutional to ban a certain gun because you can have other ones, so it'll be all fine. It is constitutional. So when you start to look at those 2 cases and 2 different courts to do that, those are the ones that get set up to go to the Supreme Court.
Right. So that's the thing. They just have to fight it out now and then decide whether the lower court can handle it or it has to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will also do like this, where they're going to be a 3-judge panel that looks at it and says, yes, we'll look at it, or no, we won't. And
so whether they take it or not is one thing. The other is that if they have it as an emergency that goes to the Supreme Court, they say you've got to look at it, you've got to rule on it now. That is not to our benefit if they do it as an emergency. So
normally they side with the government
if there is an emergency. So in AmmoLand, just published October 30th. So a recent AmmoLand article and video by the 4 Boxes Diner YouTuber Mark Smith. I want you to, if you guys are at all interested, check out Mark Smith, 4 Boxes Diner. You can find him on YouTube. You can get to him through AmmoLand. But he has an article that says, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, is Justice Barrett a traitor to the Second Amendment? Because she just recently ruled on a ghost gun case where she didn't override the government. But, so it really is, listen to him and listen to the things that he has to say, because it is, he gets into the weeds in a way that where I can't even get in the weeds. But the interesting part about Amy Coney Barrett, and some of the Supreme Court justices that were appointed during the Donald Trump era are that they are constitutional judges. They are not Republican judges. They are not Democrat judges. They are not pro-gun judges. They're not anti-gun judges. They are pro-Constitution. And so they're looking at things based on what is happening with the Constitution and how it fits together. And so it's interesting.
Well, in this article, he gives 3 different outcomes as to why she sided with this. So one was that she wanted to send a ruling to the lower courts to show that
that they willy-nilly cannot just be activist judges.
That the lower inferior courts, she says, they cannot strike down federal laws with impunity. And she recalls some of the rogue district court judges that went after Donald Trump when he would any executive actions he did for illegal immigration.
So the executive actions, I mean, frankly, a lot of folks are also looking at those activist judges who did not hear the election integrity stuff for the same kind of reason.
Right. Well, they're also saying then the second reason that it could be was the shadow docket, which is where they come in, give you this little brief summary of what's going on, and hope that you're going to rule in their favor, instead of where the whole court would grant Centauri and then receive additional briefings from both sides, as well as amicus and other oral arguments. So
when they do an emergency, it turns into this, here I'm going to give you the facts that I want to give you, but not all the facts. And we don't have time for the whole story, so I'm just going to cut to the chase of the things I want you to know.
That Barrett sided with this to make sure that the whole thing gets heard in its entirety.
Right.
And then the other thing was
is this one is that wait, where did it say it? So it involved commercial relationships instead of obvious Second Amendment implications, because the article was that it was about ghost guns and what defines
and actually the
ghost
person
gun.
who they're suing was selling the parts, and so it wasn't they were a manufacturer; they were just selling.
Retail.
And then so they said that although the ATF's regulations may still be declared unlawful, yet the delay is frustrating and perhaps some companies financially devastating.
That's the hard part, is that look at this, bump stocks.
Right, but they said when the cases are heard on their merits, they believe that they're confident that they're going to come up that the ATF is unconstitutional.
Right. And it just may be that some companies will not survive the wheels of justice grinding.
The bump stock guys were making bump stocks, and all of a sudden they had to turn in all of their inventory and everything. So one day they were in business, the next day they were completely out of business.
Right, and their debts didn't go away.
And it's not like
their product did.
Right, and it's not like if they say, "Oh well, never mind," that they can just start right back up and go again.
Because they don't have any product. They had all the debt. They had to deal with it. It was a hot mess that I am absolutely confident drove people into bankruptcy. And at some point the government is going to go, oh, never mind, sorry.
Yep.
And it's going to be too little, too late for these people, the American entrepreneurs who created a company out of that little type of product, I don't know.
Niche market, I think they call it.
Yeah, that would be the words, niche market.
Well, you're seeing that with the force reset trigger, the bump stocks, the sig brace, all of that stuff is
they're all
same.
niche. They're just tiny little. They don't appeal to everybody. They just appeal to some, but it's enough for them to be able to create a company, rent a space, hire some people, create a company, go into debt, mortgage their house.
You would think too, like on those sig braces, when multiple companies are manufacturing and selling you a new gun that's already in place, that would hit that in common use part of the
right. Oh, and almost didn't get argued as in common use, and I concur with you that it is, or it
it's
was,
one thing
or
if
it
only
should
one
be.
company makes it, and that's the only place you can get it. Then it's a little bit tricky as to in common use. But if every company's offering it as an option,
And then in some states that was the only option that was available to you. You weren't allowed to have the other stuff because they'd already made those things illegal. They just hadn't gotten this one, right? Was you figured out a loophole, and then all of a sudden they slapped that loophole shut so fast that your head spun. Right? There is all of that, but they say that it was made solely to make people who had limitations be able to shoot. We'll be back right after this.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Well, let's kick off this segment with saying that I'm not saying that the government is dirty, but I need to wash my hands. Right? I mean, there's a couple different stories here that all kind of allude to the same thing. Last week, we reported out that the U.S. halts export of civilian firearms and ammunition for 90 days. And so we were trying to figure out why they halted the export, what was going on, what did that really mean, what's that mean to us, all of that kind of stuff. And then this article by Larry Keene and published in AmmoLand by Freddie Reel came out, and this is the interesting piece of it. And so the interesting piece is that U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat from New Jersey, who has a Senate oversight role to bless or block any firearms exports, right? So his role in the Senate is part of one of the Senate committees is that he gets a vote on whether you do it or you don't do it. So so they went to U.S. Senator Bob Menendez's house, and where is what they found? Because it was crazy what they found. They found that they have charged him, and this is the second time they've indicted him, but they have charged him with illegally acting as an agent for the Egyptian government. And so when they went to his house, they have now indicted him on federal corruption and bribery charges that stem from, their words, him greasing the skids for small arms shipments to companies in Egypt. The FBI raided his home and found hundreds of thousands of dollars wadded up and stuffed in jacket pockets. So where do you keep your money? I keep hundreds of thousands of dollars in my spare coat pockets in my closet, along with a stack of gold bars, because I just keep those stacked up next to my shoes. But I'm just saying.
It sounds like he wasn't playing their game with them, and so they hooked him up.
Somebody snitched, right? So it is an interesting thing that here is a guy who is now being charged with greasing the skids, with taking bribes, with somehow just collecting gold bars and keeping them in the closet, and filling his. I bet the dry cleaner freaking loved him. We'll just say that if he is that cavalier about his money, what are the chances that he looks in all the pockets before he does laundry or sends it with the maid?
Well, who found $10 in last year's winter coat or something?
I'm willing to do your laundry if I'm going to have a chance to go through your pockets and see what you left in there, right?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that kind of leads us right back to why did they pause everything? And it may be that they've paused this because they're trying to get to the bottom of it, and they reported all of this from the Commerce Department, and they reported it on a Friday end of the day news dump. Do you know what? Typically, if you see something juicy on Friday at the end of the day, it is because their goal is they want you got plans for the weekend and you are headed out of town, and
we're going to read the news till Monday.
There'll be new news on Monday, so that the chance that it gets picked up and carried is dramatically decreased because it is a Friday afternoon news.
You know, some of this though, it makes you wonder: is Menendez dirty, and they are trying to put something on him? Is it the fact that I mean, you see in other articles where Biden's trying to basically stop the gun industry?
Well, except
tracks?
that there is not a press release from this guy saying that's not my laundry, that's not my closet, those aren't my gold bars.
Right.
He is not saying any of
but
that.
But the thing is it that he is the go-to guy for the Egyptians? Is it that he it's just makes it convenient for them to stop the export of all this stuff? So these gun companies who have lucrative large contracts
are all in trouble. And you're right, because there is the opportunity that it's the White House. So the Commerce Department, the White House, gets to decide what we do. And so they can put a 90-day stay on it. They can put a 120-day stay on it. They can put a 365-day stay on it. And they can forget to unstay it.
Right.
Right?
So, I mean, that's the thing. So they can put this little one on, and then they'll just extend it later when no one's paying attention.
Nobody's looking, because it's Friday afternoon at.
But yeah, there's a lot of gun companies that rely on these overseas contracts and that to make it happen.
Right, I agree, and they're
The Democrat is crooked. Why I
never. Right, New Jersey Democrat. Right, there you go. I'm just saying, a New Jersey senator who is still a sitting senator. Folks,
I think in New Jersey though they still use like shoe boxes. They don't just leave it wadded up in the coat pocket. I mean,
I think he's up his game just a little bit. So there's that. But I want I don't want to make that the only story that we talk about with the government being slightly dirty. We all remember the Fast and Furious scandal that happened in 2010, and where U.S. border agent Brian Terry was shot to death in a gun that was traced back to the United States, to the ATF, to Fast and Furious, to us selling guns. Now, Senator Chuck Grassley has outlined a case involving an ATF employee working in Mexico who admitted to illegally trafficking firearms in 2017. So 7 years after Fast and Furious, it's still happening. And Grassley's digging into it because they said, it's not really a gun running problem. It is a human resources problem. And so we're going to have to address it as a human resources issue. We'll be back to talk more about that right after the commercial break.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.org. syndicated.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay, so as we continue this story, Senator Grassley is challenging the ATF's investigation, or his words, lack thereof, into this serious allegation. And so, despite the alleged trafficker from admitting to illegally trafficking firearms while employed by the ATF's memo downplays his criminal activity by treating it as a human resources administrative matter. And
well, it said he was buying parts and then he was having someone assemble AR-15s.
So he was building them in Mexico. So he was hauling the parts in and then doing that. A whistleblower from a firearms dealer that he was buying the parts from reported it, and they still didn't do anything to it. So they said that they admitted that this activity was wrong to a point, and they placed him on administrative leave. Then they terminated him without cause, and then they paid him a severance package to go away, right? Instead of being in jail, instead of, if you or I were exporting firearms into Mexico after Fast and Furious, after, let's put it this way, after the St. Valentine's Day massacre, they kind of figured out that shipping guns into Mexico was probably not to our best interest. After Fast and Furious and all the brouhaha, it was kind of reinforced, just recent reinforcement, right? And then that happened, and they were like, well, here, why don't you just go look for another job somewhere else, and we'll give you a severance package. We'll pay you money to go away. We'll give you government money to not work while you're looking for a job. I want to know what that severance package is. I want to know how much money they gave this guy after termination. I think that multiple people need to have their tuchus in a sling is kind of what I think. I'd like it to be a piñata so that I could take a swing at it, is kind of where I'm at, right? So I want to say to Senator Grassley, go get him, boy.
Well,
just go get him.
We definitely have this two-tier
laws for thee and laws for me.
Right. I mean, we're saying that these ATF, the CIA, FBI, all these higher ups, they don't pay attention to what the laws are. And then the little guy's really taking it
Right.
hard because he's getting the full
The
brunt
ATF
of the,
shows up and says, "Will you voluntarily turn in your FFL? Because I'm going to sit here and I'm going to chew on your leg until you do." Right? I just, it's just a crock of cheese, an absolute crock of cheese. So okay, so what you got?
More stuff about Biden wanting to take your guns away from you. I mean, he's got Camilla at a. It's funny they give it a new. The nominal head of the White House's recently launched Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
So the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. So Camilla Harris is the head of it, but you know that it is now in the White House. This Office of Gun Violence Prevention. It is staffed and paid for by Bloomberg, Every Town, Moms Demand, The Trace, and every other anti-gun group. That's who is there. There is no pro-gun group that has a voice at the table.
I think the old days they used to say it's nice work if you can get it.
I'm just saying. It's radio. You guys can't see my eye roll, but believe me, it's rolling. And so it is rolling so hard that I'm not sure I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to concuss my own brain with my eyeballs spinning like they're spinning. So, yeah, it is just...
Well, that's the thing. They come out, they make statements. It's untrue statements. And then they sometimes they omit. They said that they talk about the...
gun violence is the leading cause of death for children in our nation. But
they
it's
say
not.
They say that it's not, and that also that they had to exclude the infants, but also include
up to 26 years old, so that they could get to the gangs and the gang crime. And so we're talking about children, but babies don't count as children anymore, obviously, on so many different levels.
Well, it skews the numbers when you got all these young ones that aren't put out shooting each other.
Well, they say that liars figure and figures lie, and you can make statistics say whatever you want to make them say by slicing and dicing and sit there and say, but it's between 17-year-olds and 26-year-olds
like
and these teens.
The regular polls too. I mean, if you know you're calling an area that has voted.
Well, let's just do the poll at Kent State University and ask their opinion on May 4th.
If that general area has voted liberal all the time, you can get these numbers. And if they voted conservative all the time, you can get these numbers. So
where are you polling?
Making sure you use the correct phone number, you can get the results you want, depending on...
We can tune it right in there. That's why the Pew Research Center, not Pew like the Pew Jew, but just the singular Pew, like the Research Center, them and Rasmussen typically do a better, unbiased, unspun, because the other part is you can ask questions in such a manner to get the answer you want. Like, have you stopped beating your wife? Right? So do you say yes because you beat her yesterday but you didn't beat her today? Or do you say no because you're still beating her as of right now? Right? There are some questions that, depending on how they ask the question, there is no answer that you can give that gets to where you want to be. And so some of these surveys and some of these polls, that's the spot that you get into.
Right. You got two choices and both of them are bad. Which one?
Right. Yeah, you got two chances, fat and slim, right?
So I can see some of that, but I do know that sometimes what the poll says and then what Dr. John Lott says is completely like 180 degrees from each other. So which one do you believe?
Dr. John Lott. Dr. John Lott.
At least he puts out where he took his poll, how he figured it, what was the excluding or including pieces to it. And so he does
cites his references, all of that kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing. But he is crimeresearch.org. And Dr. John Lott started as an economist that got into data, and the data started to lead him down this path in firearms and firearms education and all of that. And so he has become the renowned expert in firearms data. So there you go. That's who he is.
Well, a couple weeks ago we announced that New York was charging you like $8 for a background check on a gun and $2.50 or something
for ammo. Yeah.
ammo. So one of the New York lawmakers is saying that the reason that they're doing that is to jack the price up to keep you from practicing and buying a gun or anything.
Right.
So he's introducing a bill to make it so that you don't have to pay that the background checks are going to be free. I'm sure that makes you a real popular guy in New York.
Right.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Blankenbush?
You didn't highlight it. I don't see it. Let's see. Yeah, Blankenbush.
Yep. So, you think about it. If every box of ammo paid you $2.50 and every gun paid $8, there's a lot of $2.50s and $8 is in there that they can reroute to something else and use that money to abuse a completely different face of the people. Right.
So, and the interesting part is they're like removing fees from background checks is one of those efforts that there's not going to be a lot of support for unless they can figure that it will allow them to head off a court challenge by doing that, so that they do it, but that it doesn't go to court, because it's going to court right now because of all the fees and all the background. The interesting thing is right now when somebody goes to buy ammo, visualize how many people are like, well, you're going in there and you're already paying the $2.50. Why don't you pick up some for me? Or that they're going to start stocking it or hoarding it or having extra because one background check, we figured this out with online clothing stores that if they sell us a certain amount, then shipping is free. So guess what? You're going to stack up a couple extra things.
Right. Why not put, instead of paying the shipping, you just get 2 extra shirts that you weren't planning on getting.
Right. Exactly. So who loses, who wins, I don't know. But in this case, so what'll happen is somebody will be like, well, you're going, can you pick up a little bit for me? It's illegal in the state of New York, but I believe that it'll be happening all over the place with otherwise law-abiding citizens saying, well, it's a good enough thing. I know my friend, he's got a gun, he's got a license, he's got all of that, so he's good to go.
Well, then else, if you're going to go buy ammo, just buy enough that you only have to do it 2 or 3 times a year instead of every week.
Well, there is that, because it's the $2.50 and then the pause time that goes with it. So I think all of that, or they can use the Amanda Suffolk plan, which is I don't buy ammo, I just look at you and you bring me. Right. That would be in New York. That would be illegal, right?
That's what they're trying to stop, is you shooting my bullets.
Well, I'm glad we're not in New York, because I'm shooting your bullets. That's how this. There's a partnership here, and that partnership says that this girl does not buy bullets. You do. So we'll be back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
How many times, absolutely how many times have you heard, I don't need a gun because I live in a crime-free community. I live in a good community. I live in a safe community.
I don't talk to those people because they got mental health issues.
But, okay, on Monday, in one of the wealthiest counties in the country, okay, so where the extreme richies live in the DC area.
I like that word.
The extreme richies. Okay, so where the extreme richies live in the DC area, there was a gal who just come walking out of a Wells Fargo bank, and she got snatched, grabbed, and thrown into the passenger seat of a stolen black Hummer SUV. The advantage that she had was the fact that someone saw this happen, and while they saw it happen, they got involved and they called the police. So that was the first thing. The first good news that happened to this woman was the fact that someone saw it happen and they took action and they called the police. The second good news for that was that the police were only seconds away. What is the chances? I mean, I live in a spot where the police are 15 minutes away when
Right, but you don't live in the Richie neighborhood where they got extra cop cars sitting around doing nothing.
Oh, I don't live in an extreme Richie neighborhood. That's for darn sure. Right? But so the police were there in seconds, and then they tracked down this car, and they stopped this person, and there was a chase, and they drove up backwards on the roads, and they did all this kind of stuff. But it was by sheer luck that the deputy was able to save this woman, because it comes out that Joseph Daniel, his goal is human trafficking. So he snatched her to traffic her. Okay? So if it were you, well, I'm not sure they're trafficking you, but okay. If it were me, maybe they're not trafficking me either. But if they were somebody we know, and their intent is to traffic them, intent is to take them from crime scene A to crime scene B, or take you against your will and do stuff, the chances that somebody will see it, someone will take action, and the police that will be seconds away, what are those chances? I think
most times people that mind their own business and they don't bother to, even if they've seen something, it'd be 3 hours later before they got home and told somebody that I seen the weirdest thing today, and then and they say, "Did you call the police?" And they're like, "No." "Did you get the license number?" "No."
Maybe I ought to call them now, right? I mean, and then do you get somebody on the other end that actually believes what you? I mean, there's all that stuff. Remember that time I called about that emu that was running down the street?
Right. Well,
And-
that's the thing. They don't. Emus and kangaroos and stuff like that, they tend to think you're a little bit off the rocker.
They wanted to know if it had a collar, right? We'll just say that's a story unto itself. But anyhow, to me, it does not. This is a story that says, because I pulled the story and you're like, I don't see what this has anything to do with anything. I think that this story screams, you are your own first responder. Whose job is it to protect
if you
you?
had a gun in your pocket, it makes it harder
to be snatched or to be successfully snatched.
I use
because
that. I'm just getting so fat that they don't want to try to wrestle me.
that they are looking at him going, this is a prime specimen of a man that we're going to traffic, and we're going to...
Fat people are hard to kidnap. That's what I...
Have another donut. Right? I don't know that that's really the case, but I'm saying that this is back to how we open the show. You need a firearm. You need training. You need to have it with you when you go somewhere.
Right, you need to think ahead of time instead of it's like afterwards.
Right.
Like, oh, I should have brought my gun.
Right, and in this case, it's not like, even if you are in the extreme richy part of the United States, the richest of the rich
right, you're
of
not,
the United States, you're not
not
safe.
Safe, yep.
You are not safe. You may be lucky, but you're not safe. Whose job is to protect you? Yours. And in this case, this woman got extremely lucky, but that doesn't always stand that way.
Right, next one may not be as lucky.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah. So anyhow, at the end of the day, the problem is the human heart.
So you're switching to a whole new story about the new Speaker of the House.
The Speaker of the House said something they were doing a press conference about the Maine mass shooting, and he said at the end of the day, the problem is the human heart and not guns, and it's not the weapons. Mr. Johnson said that the violence and
He stopped. Amendment. It's not the weapons. He stopped. Mr. Right. So Mike Johnson, this is his statement, and people are losing. They are wigging out. They're losing their minds.
Well, they're saying that it's factually wrong and it paints a dark view of America and its people. But in reality, they're saying that when the Democrats point out that
that we are irredeemably racist, sexist, homophobic, and guilty of every other significant brand of hate you care to name, simply because that's the way we were born, the color of our skin, what our neighborhood was, who raised us, all of that.
So it's more that it's not about the painting a dark picture. We are a dark picture.
Right.
But
I mean, so it really is. It is the human being, and that is what the gun owners have been saying.
Well,
It
that's
is
the thing, too. They
about
said that
it's the
even
human
in
being.
non-gun homicide rates in the U.S. are higher than any other place on the.
Do you know why?
'Cause
What's your thought on that?
I don't know, because we just like to impose our will on other people.
No, I think it's because we don't do a damn thing about it, and then we just let them back out. And if you are in some other country and you commit a crime against somebody, they kill you back first, right? And in the United States, we're like, oh, you didn't understand.
We have an offender with 57 reoffensions, and they don't have reoffenders.
Not to that level, no, absolutely not. And so we're sitting here trying to compare our crime rates when you don't compare the outcome of those crime rates.
The half of America has a problem with you throwing somebody down a well and never pulling them back out again.
Well, there you go.
But in some of the
So
parts
I
of
think
the
that they need to
world
go live in some other part of the world for a little while. You know, those who believe that we need to be socialists, I think that they need to. I will absolutely listen to everything that they have to say after they go and spend 1 year hiatus in a socialist country and then come back and tell me how much better it is there than it is here. When they do that, then they've got a place to stand and a statement to make. But until then, they need to shut their pie hole and stop subjecting their will.
Did your meds just kick in or something?
You just got me all wound up, dude.
You ain't got a gavel to beat on something, do you?
No, but I could. I mean, I'm telling you, it really is just, I've just been listening to so many people have opinions that they weren't issued a brain. They just have an opinion. And I just think it's a crock of cheese.
Right. Well, that's the thing is sometimes the uninformed opinions are quite humorous if you read them. They're just
they're not humorous when you're living with them or living in the community around them or the people who write the laws or the people who, I mean, I'm sorry, there's somebody on social media they're asking questions and I just want to type on there, shut your pie hole. That's the answer, dude.
Some of the stuff is we don't bother. We only complain to ourselves. We don't bother to call our senators or congressmen. And so the
I got them on speed dial.
But the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so you get these people who just want to call and say uninformed things.
I'm telling you, I freaking love Mike Johnson. I love him. When he said that...
Nobody even knew who the guy was 2 weeks ago.
Well, actually, we have pictures with him each and every year. Women for Gun Rights has met with him. He has made time for us. He's a pro-gun guy.